wonderful presentation on the balloon inflation, which has just become a New York tradition with lots of happy faces out here. Look at this. Oh, man.
So much fun, really is. But we can't hear anymore. Anyway, can you believe it? This parade is well into its 9th decade, and it's made a lot of changes over the years. Steve Overmeyer takes us with an inside look.
Nothing embodies the spirit of the holiday like Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. For 95 years, it's become a Thanksgiving Day staple.
1 million people line New York streets to see the annual Thanksgiving Day Parade.
It all began in 1924. The procession was just 2 blocks long and featured animals from the Central Park Zoo.
Interestingly enough, by 1927, they stopped with the zoo animals because they scared the children along the way.
It was originally known as the Christmas Parade as a way for the nation's largest store to jumpstart the season of shopping.
Culminating with Santa Claus at the very end of the parade unveiling the holiday windows on 34th Street.
This was the earliest Santa balloon. In fact, Santa Claus has a strong connection to New York. In 1823, New Yorker Clement Clark Moore wrote about the white-haired, red-suited man in A Visit from St. Nicholas. You might know this poem by its more familiar title, The Night Before Christmas. Santa isn't the only star of the show. By 1927, the zoo animals were replaced by giant balloons. And at the end of that parade, the helium-filled balloons were released over Manhattan.
The thought was if we released them and there was a return to sender label on them, they would come back to Macy's.
Except instead of waiting for them to return to the ground, a student pilot named Annette Gibson tried to wrangle Felix the cat while it was floating. It got tangled in her biplane and crashed. Fortunately, both the pilot and co-pilot survived. Over the years, the balloons have thrilled children and adults alike.
With a series of enormous inflated figures representing famous historical and screen personalities.
The first balloons floated close to the ground. Even then, their enemy was the wind. Since then, they've gotten bigger and bigger. The only time the wind was way too strong to fly any balloons was 1971.
You consider how wide Central Park West is. Pretty wide compared to some American cities, but how wide the balloons are.
Some modern balloons reach 6 stories high and require more than 100 handlers. While balloons have been the stars, from the beginning, the workhorses have been the floats. Once just cloth covering a truck, floats have evolved into something more sensational.
You see something that is so quintessentially New York. You see the New York City streets, you see the crowds, the excitement, the marching bands. It is such a celebration of the season. New York is such an amplifier of great things, and certainly this parade is no exception.
From Felix the Cat to Tom Turkey to Santa Claus, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade embraces tradition, and tradition is what brings people together.
All right, we've got more fun out here right now, guys. Look, you can't be out here at this sort of event and not feel excited, but I do want to tell you something. I mean, look at some of the balloons over there.
Awesome.
I mean, it takes some special training to handle those balloons. Now, we're looking at a big old ice cream cone. That's one of the smaller balloons.
But right next to us is Diary of a Wimpy Guy.
And this is, lo and behold, this is like one of the largest balloons in the whole parade.
Wow. A few weeks ago, we were there as the balloon handlers put the inflatables to the test in the MetLife Stadium parking lot. The test run also gives pilots a chance to see how the wind affects balloons. Earlier today, I spoke with balloon captain Kathy Kramer about what it's like to maneuver these balloons through the streets and also how spectators, the people in the crowd, actually play a role.
You bet, you bet.
We love the big balloons, and the crowds love the big balloons. And it's so funny over the years. So I walk backwards the whole way. So I don't, I have to keep my eyes on my balloon, and then I give guidance to the handlers. I either tell them to move this way or that way, forward, different instructions that we give them. The crowd usually tells me what the balloon is doing. You will hear, oh, because I know it's moving. And I tell my handlers, you are going to hear that. Do not look up. Trust me, he's there. It's there. The crowd loves to see it move. So we just try to tell the handlers, pay attention to me. They're going to cheer for it to move because they love to see that. But at the end of the day, if you follow my instruction, we'll get down safely and looking great.
How much fun and what a dream job it must be.
It is a dream job. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. I take it very seriously. We start last week thinking about it. My stomach starts to churn a little bit. But, you know, once we kick off, it's all business. And, you know, again, one of my most favorite parts is when we go down the route and I have a moment to check up high. And I'll see kids in the windows because they're office buildings, they bring their families in. And if I can make connection with them, it's like this moment, this little spark, because they're like, they see it, and I'll wave to them and I'll make eye contact, and or the kids on the sidewalk. You know, they've been sitting there for hours. Last year it was 5 degrees, it was cold, they were all bundled up, but we were able to give them a high five, ask them to cheer for my handlers, and it really gives them a moment of joy and spark too.
You know, Lonnie, I've been to this parade, balloon inflation, years and years after year. And you meet people that travel from all over the country to come see it.
It's a bucket list kind of thing.
But this young man right here, what's your name?
Rintaro, R-I-N-T-A-R.
And where are you from?
Japan.
Japan.
All right, that wins the award. Anybody else make a big trip to get here?
Yeah.
Wait. Come up here. Wait. From where? Connecticut.
What about you, ma'am? Where are you
From Paris.
They're from Paris, Lonnie?
Yes.
From Paris? All right, we got Paris, we got Japan, we got Connecticut, my home state. How about you guys? Where are you from? Virginia?
Wow.
Anybody else? Where are you from, honey? No, you're from Long Island is a great place to be from. How about anybody else back there? Guys, has anybody been to the parade before? Or is anybody, okay, how about your first time? Anybody here for the first time?
Oh, look at all these first-timers. But you know, the veterans probably know a lot of facts about this parade over the years.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
So we're going to have to pick some contestants, Lonnie, because coming up after the break, we're going to have a quiz, and we're going to test people, and you'll have bells, and you're going to ring in when you know the answer.
Yeah, I may not be too good for that quiz because he took my script.
Okay. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back with more on our Thanksgiving Eve special, a celebration.
I need a script.